Kia ora koutou, tauwha lava. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July committee. We've got a few formalities to get through before we start. The councillors who are online, and we have online councillors Leone, Stewart, Williams and Newman. We have a number of apologies received for absence from Councillor Darby and Councillor Lee, for lateness from Mayor Brown, who I believe is providing an inspirational address to the Labour caucus. That'll be a good one to see. Also, Councillor Bartley and perhaps a couple of the Councillor Foley and Newman may be coming in later by the sounds of things. Early departure, Councillor Leone. Are there any more apologies?
Councillor Foley is online.
Yeah, Councillor Foley is online. Okay, so moved by Councillor Sayers, seconded by Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We go to the second item, which is a rather sad item, and I'm going to call upon the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Desley Simpson, to make a short statement.
Thank you, Chair. I know that councillors have woken this morning to the tragic news. Former Auckland Council Chief Executive Doug Mackay's wife, Trish. She was a victim of a burglary, and as a result of that, a very tragic incident. And I know the family have asked for privacy at this time, but I'm sure you as councillors join with me in sending our very deepest and most sincere condolences to the Mackay family. And I ask if you could join me in standing for a minute's silence. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Item 3 is the confirmation of minutes. Yeah, I'll come. The minutes for confirmation for 6th of June. Councillor Fletcher will move it. I'll second it. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 2, go back one. Any declarations of interest? I don't think there are any. No. As with item 4, there are no petitions, which brings us through to the main order of the day, which for this part of the agenda anyway, which is public input. We received quite a number of requests, actually, 9 or 10 all up. We accepted 5, and the balance of the other ones we asked to be deferred. So where we can't accommodate people, we always make the offer of them coming to the next meeting so that everyone gets a chance to have a say. It's just logistically too difficult if we have really more than 5. So the deferred requests that have been noted here, one from the Downer Group, who we're going to talk about unsealed roads, so they'll come back later. Equally with the Equal Justice Project, and they similarly have been offered a slot at the next meeting. There was a couple of other ones that were similarly advised to come to the August meeting, and there was a request outside the time from Jeff Upson, and unfortunately Jeff was in too late, it was full up, so that was declined. It didn't come in the one clear working day. With all that said, we will have to be reasonably business-like, folks, because we've got a big agenda today, got a lot to get through, and then we've got a workshop after that. If the meeting's not bad enough, we're then in for a workshop. So we'll look to keep our presenters pretty close to the 5 minutes, and I'll just ask for a couple of questions. So we won't have time to go around and do the usual opening up to everyone, because we've got a lot to get through. So having said all that, first item up today, public input. I welcome to the front Paul Miller and John Gardner, who are going to talk to us today about a new approach to infrastructure and funding. Paul is the founder and technologist for Complete View Software Limited, and John is the managing director for Candor. So welcome, gentlemen. And there is a presentation. All the presentations were sent out in advance. Over to you.
Just get that going. To those who don't know me, so Paul Miller, I've been a passionate advocate for transport for Auckland, and currently involved with promoting the trains to Huapai. But here today to talk about something more important than my beloved transport is how we pay for everything. So I'll hand over to my colleague for an introduction, and thank you for inviting me.
Right, my name is John Gardner. I'm a civil engineer by training, with 35 years experience, mainly throughout New Zealand, but also internationally, in housing and infrastructure. It's well published. Oh, sorry. How does this work?
Okay, so just to set the scene, I know we've only got 5 minutes, and we're certainly not wanting to do death by PowerPoint, especially being the first session of the morning. It wouldn't be a great way to start to engage with you. I think everyone knows what the issues are with transport in Auckland, with not just transport, with infrastructure in Auckland, its deficits, the maintenance of that infrastructure, and its impact on the citizens of Auckland and the potential growth of Auckland. The reality is it's not just the problems that we've got with infrastructure, it's the problems we've got with funding. You guys have done a wonderful job to try and balance the funding side of things to get through the current term and work out a basic model that scrapes us through in the next terms. But if you look at the RLTP, it's $24 billion short of funding the transport plans that this same council is wanting to endorse. So there is no money there. Government is stretched in terms of the debt capability. The council is stretched. There is no debt mechanisms that will fund us out of this infrastructure problem. So what's the answer? I'll hand over to John to tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Well, our problems are well publicised, and being involved in housing and infrastructure, we're hitting the problems on the ground day in, day out. So about 2.5 years ago, we started looking at how we might do something slightly differently. Sorry, I jumped. I'm not sure how to work the system.
Go back one.
There we go, sorry. Started engaging with, started engaging with industry professionals, and over the last 2.5 years, I've looked at a lot of problems, looked at a lot of financial tools available to us in New Zealand, and also looked at proven tools overseas that we do not yet use. So while what we're promoting requires legislative change at central government level, we've used Auckland, which is my hometown and one I know most about, to demonstrate a new model. And our development goals were fundamentally to help fix our aged infrastructure, accelerate the delivery of new infrastructure, improve housing supply affordability. Everyone can read, I think. But the key thing is how do we fund it without overtaxing ratepayers? So, so the model that we've put together. The model that we've put together. Oh, sorry, I should just go back. The key, we've looked at a lot of proven tools in New Zealand, but we've looked at what is best practice overseas, and essentially what we have done is not create any new tools. That's not what we're about. It's how we take these tools and put them in a very specific system to deal with very specific problems. So what we've essentially done is taken proven tools and just order them into a system that creates value and triggers a whole lot of improvement. And the base line of that is value capture. So when councils rezone land, I think it's accepted there's a very large jump in value. And the principle of value capture is simply to take some of that value uplift as a starting point and apply that to fixing infrastructure. Now, Greenfields in particular has a unique dynamic in that if council announces that they will zone land, you immediately get land speculators, developers and people positioning themselves. And as land sales occur, value is being captured before you've even put a spade in the ground to deliver infrastructure. So it's a model that's delivering revenue early and does not require debt, which is a very, very key component. Now, our model fundamentally says if you rezone some land, you capture some of that value, you apply that in the first instance to building greenfields infrastructure, which then in turn facilitates the development. What you are able to do in our model is generate a greenfields surplus, which can then be used for intensification. So the private sector can do greenfields very successfully and efficiently, but brownfields is really, at a large scale, a public sector exercise. So surplus revenue from greenfields can be applied to, say, targeting a suburb, upgrading the infrastructure to allow for intensification, which then in turn allows that intensification. You then provide a brownfields value uplift, which is more related to the provision of infrastructure, and you create a loop where you can start to upgrade infrastructure. Now, in the box, we're promoting that replaces the current development contributions regime, which in turn takes you repurpose the development contribution into an infrastructure renewal. Yep. So.
Are you able to round it off now, James?
Yep.
Where was the copy of that? So the next steps on this was that there's a lot of work gone into this, as well as modelling for all of Auckland. This is a New Zealand-wide thing that we're putting to central government, and we've had very positive responses from central government at the moment. What we're looking for out of this council is an openness to give us feedback, so when we go back to central government, we've got the things that are important to the council that have been checked out. Are those calculations relevant? Will they create the funding that is required by council? And will that protect the citizens of Auckland in terms of the ones that you want to be on board with this change? So you're talking about new homeowners. The whole idea, if we look at it from a citizen perspective, you can't whack new homeowners that can't afford to buy a house with a charge to build infrastructure. You also can't, I know it's tempting, but you can't target developers because developers just pass it on to homeowners. So where do you put that charge, and it's in that uplift around the upside on the property side of things. So in a summary, that's what it is. What we're looking for you guys to do is to say, are you interested in talking further? Would you like to have a look at what we've done, and will you give us feedback so we can take back to central government?
Okay, a couple of very quick questions, please, Councillor Walker.
Sure. So, on the basis of what you've said, this has got merit. And I guess my question further to this is, how can we get a conversation going? Mr. Potter is probably in a position to speak to that briefly. So my question's really directed to you, Barry. How can we get a conversation going to take this further?
I'd be happy to take that up, and we can arrange to meet Paul and go through this in some detail. Yep.
Thanks, Barry. Councillor Sayers?
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you for the presentation. It's an important topic that you've raised. I'm very pleased that Barry's opened up that opportunity that you can come back into the organisation. Barry, that might want to include the Chief of Staff potentially, because this is obviously in the political arena, as we've heard. It's obviously very complex and we need to understand it better, so thank you. My question is around what do you see as the benefit of your framework compared to the current practice model system we're using?
The key factor is value uplift, because it's a new source of funding that doesn't require, or at least mitigates, any requirement for debt. And in our modelling, it can generate a surplus that then gives the public sector the ability to large-scale infrastructure upgrades for intensification. And most importantly, it replaces the development contribution regime, which then allows a uniform charge across the city for infrastructure renewal. And our model is actually allowing to invest some of that for the future and to actually utilise some of that on the way through to supplement existing budgets.
Right, okay, thank you. So, Councillor Sayers, there's a motion on the screen to receive the input. If you could move it, and Councillor Walker will second it, noting that Barry Potter is going to facilitate some discussion with the presenters today and the council. So thank you, Paul and John, for that presentation, a very apt timing. So all those, it's been moved and seconded, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Brings us to the second item on the agenda, which is